Why don't we start with the news that Canada, Mexico, and the United States have secured the World Cup in 8 years, in 2026. Coach Arena, what's your reaction to that news?
Well, it's fantastic news. The 94 World Cup did a lot for the sport in the United States, and I think 2026 is really going to enhance the game as well. And the game has grown a lot since 1994, and it's going to continue to grow, and the World Cup coming back is tremendous.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask about it later on anyway. How do you feel like the sport has grown since then, specifically in the United States?
Well, in 94, we didn't have a professional league in our country. So part of getting the 94 World Cup was we agreed to bring a professional league into the United States again. And we did that, and then that league now in 22 years has grown tremendously. Our players are getting better and better, although we did fail to qualify for this World Cup. But the sport in the United States is in much better shape because of the 94 World Cup, and it's just going to get better and better. It's not only going to help our national team program, but it's going to help grow our league as well.
I've had a chance to read major portions of your book, and I'm really fascinated by your perspective. But every time World Cup comes up, I still have a sting. I still don't really know that I'm over the loss to Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not sure I'll ever forget watching that second half. So what about you, Coach? As the World Cup begins in Moscow, what are your emotions?
Well, as bad as you feel, I feel a lot worse. It's the goal of every player and coach to go to a World Cup, and those were our goals. You know, when we started in 2017, obviously we were starting all over again with a new coach, with the team. You know, we knew it was going to be a difficult task, and it was likely going to come down to the last game, as it did. And the players in 2017 did a tremendous job, despite some of the press you see and questioning their commitment and all of those things. And I thought it was a great group, and we went 14 games undefeated in 2017, and then in the last 4 games, we needed to earn another point, and we failed. So, we accept that responsibility, no excuses, but, I was pretty proud of the group. And over 18 games in 2017, we only lost twice, but we lost 2 important games.
We're spending a few minutes with Bruce Arena, the winningest coach in U.S. soccer history, even without the team making the World Cup last fall. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. The book is called What's Wrong with Us? A Coach's Blunt Take on the State of American Soccer After a Lifetime on the Touchline. Why did you decide to write the book?
Well, I agreed to write the book last spring, and my goal of the book was actually to talk about my career growing up and moving forward up until taking a job with the national team again, and then explaining all the games and the things behind the scenes as we led to qualifying for the World Cup in Russia. And unfortunately, as you know, we didn't qualify. So at the end, I changed some things, but it didn't alter a whole lot in the book. At the end of the book, as you know, I make some recommendations on the sport to both Major League Soccer and U.S. Soccer. But I wanted to write the book, regardless of what was going on with the national team.
Wow, that's interesting. So you had to amend a good portion of the book, and I'm assuming change the title as well, considering what happened in qualifying.
See, the book was going to be Coaching America, and you were going to read that as we were preparing for our first game in the World Cup.
Man, that had to be tough, even as you were processing the loss to Trinidad and Tobago. One of the lines in the introduction stood out to me, and so I wrote it down because I wanted to bring it up. You say one of the key problems with soccer in the United States right now is the inability to make a distinction between making money and developing the sport. And development is a major theme in the book. So, Coach, which one of those gods is being served right now in the U.S.?
Well, commercially we're winning right now, but we need to win technically. And throughout the book, as you know, I continue to discuss that we've got to do things that help us move the sport along on the field, get our players better, create some rules and policies that allow our younger players to grow professionally at a younger age.
Well, that is a monumental task. So where do you start? And I know you said that soccer has grown exponentially in the United States since 1994, but at this point, where we are now, how do you dig in and make sure that development takes place?
Well, a lot of the good work has been done. We have very good development programs right now, but we don't have the right mechanism in place when these kids are 17, 8 years old, and they declare that they're going to be professionals, and we need to put them in a better professional environment, one. And then secondly, as they continue to grow, we need to get them on the field in Major League Soccer. Now, that's not the goal of Major League Soccer to develop American players. That's the goal of U.S. Soccer. So they have got to come together and agree on some policies that work for both entities. And the U.S. Soccer, being the governing body of the sport in the country, can put in rules that require MLS to play more American players. And I gave examples in the book from Mexico and England, and there are many other countries in the world that do the same things.
You also write a bunch about the leadership, and there's been a change atop U.S. Soccer. So do you feel like the promotion from within was a good step?
You're talking about the new president?
Yes.
Well, he's a gentleman with little experience in the sport of soccer. He's a businessman, but hopefully, being a good businessman, he'll understand that we need the right leadership in the sport, and he'll bring in people that have a better background technically than the people we now have in place, or the lack of people we have in place. So we've got to grow the sport both in U.S. Soccer and in MLS with people that have a better feel for the game on the field.
Former U.S. men's national team head coach Bruce Arena with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. And we're talking about his brand new book called What's Wrong with Us? Essentially looking at the state of American soccer. And Coach, you talk about the technical side of the game a lot in the book. And I'm wondering, how do you balance the teaching side of the sport, which is the development side, and getting the young guys ready to go, with the need to put the best players on the field so that you can win?
Well, it's always a tough balance, and that's an issue in every sport in our country. It's an issue in the sport of soccer around the world, and one of the issues at the professional level is they always want to win, and coaches are fired because they don't win. Coaches don't get rewarded for developing players unless you develop them and win. So it's a difficult balance. That's where U.S. Soccer has to come in and make some demands about the kind of players we're playing, and having some policies and rules in place that safeguard the domestic player and get them on the field. And that takes the pressure away from the coach or the team on having to do that. It's going to be done by rules and regulations.
I had a chance to speak with a few of the U.S. players as they would go to camp and get ready for qualifying matches. And they were really appreciative of some of the changes that you instilled when you took over as head coach. One thing I heard was you treated them like professionals. So are you interested in coaching again?
Under the right opportunity, I would like to do that. I also think that I can help in the management and the leadership of the sport. So hopefully there's going to be some opportunities ahead of me, and by 2019, I'm fully active again.
I am glad to hear that, Coach. One of the really positive things that came out of qualifying is that U.S. soccer fans were introduced to Christian Pulisic. How high is his ceiling?
Well, the ceiling's high. You know, he's made remarkable progress at this point in his career, and now to get even better, it's going to take a lot of hard work. And I think right now he's in the right club. I think last year was a tough year for him on the club level. He did a fabulous job with the national team in 2017. I believe he's by far our leading goal scorer, and he has a bright future. We got to make sure that his agent doesn't get too aggressive and wants to move him on to a club where he doesn't continue to progress as a player. So right now he's in the perfect environment, and then in 2019 he'll be ready to step in and hopefully be a leader for the national team program as well.
One of the most painful things about missing out on the World Cup is that it only comes along every 4 years, which means some of the staples of U.S. soccer, names that people know, Tim Howard, Clint Dempsey, even Michael Bradley, who's the captain, we may not see them again on the World Cup stage. And that's difficult. It's a difficult way to bid farewell to them. But who are some of the young building blocks along with Christian that will help and will move soccer forward in the future?
Well, I think we've seen recently that this Weston McKennie, who's playing at Schalke, has a good future. John Brooks, who missed almost the entire year for the U.S. team, plays at Wolfsburg, and he's going to be a good player. Matt Miazga, who's playing for Vitesse in Holland and is owned by Chelsea, is going to be a good player. The goalkeeper, Stefan from Columbus, is a very good talent. A striker who missed most of the year with the national team, Jordan Morris, who plays for Seattle in Major League Soccer, is excellent. So I think there are players besides Christian that can come up. They're going to need some time. Yedlin at the right back position, still young, has a lot of opportunities to grow at Newcastle. So there's some raw talent there that I believe in 3 or 4 years are going to be much better players, and hopefully we'll move the program along. But certainly we need to reflect a little bit and be thankful for the contributions of Tim Howard, Michael Bradley, and Clint Dempsey, and DeMarcus Beasley. They did an outstanding job for the program.
Right, and maybe it won't be the last time that we see all of them. As you look back on it now, Coach, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Well, we don't have the luxury as coaches to be able to do that. Say that, I can't change the result in the last game. It's 2-1. A lot of people are critical of the fact that I played the same team in Trinidad that I did in Panama. And one thing you'll see as you watch the World Cup, these national teams are going to repeat the same lineups, game in and game out. We checked our players out physically. They all checked out. We have the most scientific methods to monitor players, and everyone checked out. So for me, 4 days rest is enough time to get an athlete ready for a game. So I can't question that move. Obviously, you could say you could replace a number of players, but naturally what would happen if we did that and lost the game, then everyone would have said, why'd you change your team that won 4-0 against Panama? So you can't win. As a coach, you're defenseless in these situations, so I've chosen not to really reply a whole lot to those kind of questions.
Certainly understood. That is a battle that every coach faces, and usually it's a no-win situation. Before I let you go, I had a chance to attend my first qualifying match. It was really exciting for me, Red Bull Arena in New Jersey last fall. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, are we as fans in the United States doing enough to support soccer?
We have a remarkable support base. We really do. Our fans are outstanding. They, as well as the players, I believe, deserve to be in the World Cup, and I'm sorry for that. And hopefully they continue to support the U.S. team.
Well, I certainly will. Former U.S. men's national team head coach Bruce Arena, also an author now, What's Wrong with Us? A coach's blunt take on the state of American soccer. Thank you so much for a couple of minutes. I really appreciate your book as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.